I think it's 4-0. And if Jorginho plays, it's 4-1.
Welcome back to the Social Media Derby. This week and next week, we're going to have a very special guest co-host. It's one of our favourite guest episodes that we've had so far. Lincoln, what are you saying, man?
Good to be here, my man. People ask me, where's Jonty? Don't ask where Jonty is. Don't ask where he is. You get me? They said,
Who's Jonty?
Who's this man? They said that I did him, like in Top Boy there, like they did Sunny. You better bleep that. I said, like, pow, pow, just like that. I said, my man tried to start a Honda Civic and he exploded.
I'm gonna ask
where your man is.
These are definitely jokes, guys. Jonty's alive. He's well.
Jonty's alive. Yeah, that's what. And would say that. And would say that.
Yeah.
They said the man did the pistol. When I tossed the burner straight in the car.
That's like some Top Boy original stuff, man. The original season, Summer House. But nice. No, Jonty is alive and well. I hope he's in China. To be fair, he'll be back in a couple episodes' time. But until then, we're graced with Lincoln's presence, which is going to be hilarious and also, very frustrating because I'm going to predict that we're going to be for, probably the whole period that he's guest hosting. So he'll be having fun. I'll probably be quite sad. But we're going to quickly go through the Carabao Cup results because we didn't get a chance to cover it on the last episode when Jonty was here. But before that, I have to give Pep a shout out. We don't normally talk about City and other teams outside of Arsenal and United, unless we're doing predictions. But Pep's going to hold some corn today because in his press, his preview kind of press conference thing for the Wolves game, he called out a bunch of Wolves' good players. I mean, there's only a few. They're pretty rubbish. But then he just decided to give up at the end and say that Korean guy. Which, to be fair, there's probably bare people out there that call him that Korean guy, right? They don't. He's not Son. He's not, one of the big household names, but he's a bit of a baller. And I have to say he has to hold that because, it's a bit debatable to just say that Korean guy. Imagine you said, that Algerian guy, that Gambian guy, that whatever. People would be a bit outraged. But, that Korean guy came out and banged in the winner. So hold that, Pep. Wolves social media manager, you deserve a raise because they banged 100%. Out that tweet straight away. The world is good again. So what started off pretty frustrating, and I was like, Pep, I was ready to curse him out because he's going to making fun of our, guys from my region, and then he's going to beat them. But thankfully, Huang, made him eat that up, and, City hold that.
Now, that's one of those where I'm really glad that Huang did that because can you imagine being called that Korean guy and then just stinking out the place?
Oh, you never live it down, bro.
My man was fighting for all the Asian dons on his back.
I respect him, man. I love him. I love him for that. Honestly, I love him for that.
That was
beautiful. Holding down, billions of people, multiple ethnicities, and he just stuck it to Pep. And I love it because he also should have got red carded because I swear he elbowed someone earlier in the match. So he knocked someone out basically and scored the winner. So, I love Huang, and forever he'll be, holding a special place in my heart, regardless of how Wolves do. He's a legend. So big up Huang. And I didn't think I'd ever do that on this pod, but you know what I mean? Got to hold him, got to hold Pep to it, and let's hope they keep the L's coming because they lost in the Carabao Cup as well. They went out to Newcastle. So, let's hope for your sake as well, Lynx, that they hold a third consecutive loss against you guys. And, they guess they got Champions League, don't they? But, let's hope they lose to Arsenal as well, man. That'll be good. But let's go into the Carabao Cup, man. What did you think of that? First of all, Brentford away. You'd come off quite a disappointing 2-2 draw against Spurs, and you won 1-0. Do you think it was a fair result?
Very fair result. I think Brentford didn't do enough to win that. We did more than enough to win it. And one thing that I can say about Arsenal in general is we are very, very, very tough to score on. It's very hard to break down this Arsenal side.
Yeah.
Unless we make a mistake somewhere, give the ball away, Jorginho-esque, very, very difficult to score against Arsenal. And we saw it. We saw it against Brentford. Like, that game was tight, and like Ramsdale had to make a couple of good saves.
Yeah, Rambo played well.
Yeah, he really did. But realistically, I never felt we were in trouble. I felt
you guys away are a different beast, man. A different beast away. And I don't know where this came from, because Arsenal used to be the cojones, Evra's little boys type thing. And you think away, those are the times you're really going to see that kind of that what did you guys call it, crumbling or whatever. But you guys don't do that, man. You're the opposite. You are sturdy. You don't give up goals. You got clean sheets for days away. And you rotated the team a little bit, and you still won quite comfortably, I'd say. So that's got to be a great result for you guys, man.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's a combination of the game plan away from home is very, very, it's much simpler. And the game plan that you face when you're away from home tends to be much simpler. We get opponents who want to come out a little bit. Like we saw, even throwing forward to Bournemouth, like those guys were just throwing themselves at us. And so I think when Arsenal go away, it's a much simpler, clearer game plan. And coupled with the fact that the opponent has to be a little bit more aggressive, it means Arsenal are just really, really difficult to play. I think when we're at home, we're probably trying to do a little bit too much. I think he's probably got 3 or 4 formations, and that's maybe a little bit too much for new players. But you saw against Brentford, it was just solid, just meat and potatoes. Everyone sit back, everyone defend, do the right things, blocks, headers. We're not going to concede here, and that's what happened.
Nah, you're right, man. That makes a lot of sense. I guess that's probably why I think the Fulham result less so. I guess it was kind of disappointing because you'd expect to beat Fulham, but like it is what you said. Like they clearly wanted to defend. They didn't really open up, especially when they lost a man as well. They were just concentrating on counters. I guess the Spurs one was a bit disappointing because I don't think Spurs really did that. I mean, until the last 10 minutes, I think Spurs actually were quite brave on the ball. And because of that, you'd expect Arsenal to be able to take the chances, pick them off when the spaces opened up. But in fact, it kind of flipped, and that match was kind of... And I get why Arsenal fans reacted the way they did, because I think it's the way you guys are in development. It makes sense if the low block is something that takes a bit of time and you might have the odd result where it doesn't work. But the Spurs one was because, Spurs actually played a little bit and it somehow didn't go the way. But I think it's a great result for you guys, man. Before we go into the Bournemouth, the United match, I'm not going to ramble about it too much. There were people out here going way overboard, saying that we found the style, we should be using those players game in, game out, that, they saw patterns of play and that we were actually able to score. Amrabat left back, all this kind of stuff. And I've got to be honest, man, I was talking to Jonty about it. As much as we were, actually semi-decent to watch, Palace were poor. And it was definitely a 50-50 thing where Palace were just as poor as we were good. And it was nothing to get too excited by. And man, we've got Newcastle at home in the next round. And that's no gimme. They obviously knocked Pep out and City, so... Yeah, man, I think, it's not looking good for us. And that Crystal Palace result, while it kind of, gave people some hope, I think a lot of people got a little bit too desperate and over-gassed over it. Did you see it, the match, the 3-0?
I didn't see the 3-0. I saw the highlights for that. It looked pretty routine. Yeah. But what struck me when I actually looked at the lineouts is how little United actually rotated.
We only took a few people
between the two
out,
games.
Yeah.
Is that because? Do you think that's because of injuries, or Ten Hag trying to build some consistency?
I think it's a bit of both, man. I think if you look at Ten Hag last season, and a lot of people are saying this is the reason why we're getting so many injuries now, is he didn't rotate enough. Like we played our full strength team in the Carabao Cup, in the FA Cup, even against Championship, League One opposition, and I think the players are feeling the residual effect of that. And I think this time, I was surprised he didn't give our Turkish backup goalie, Billy Binder, I think his name is. I'm surprised they didn't give him a game and they played Onana. But, considering how Onana started, I think it was to try and build some confidence and expect that he wouldn't face too many shots. I think Amrabat left back is because we've got every single left back in our team injured, so kind of don't really have many options. You've got Wan-Bissaka injured on the other side, so you couldn't even do Dalot on the left and Wan-Bissaka on the right. Centre back, we've got Varane, who's made of basically rich tea biscuits. He basically gets injured all the time.
Just on site.
Exactly. You just look at him and he crumbles. Exactly. He's all over. He's a great defender. He's our best defender by far. And you can feel it when he's not around, but he's just not reliable because of his fitness. Martinez, now we found out, is injured. Maguire, God, keep him off the pitch. Whatever happens, play a youth player if you can. Jonny Evans, I know he was good in the Burnley game, but it might have been a bit of a tough ask to get him to play two games in 4 days or 3 days or whatever it was. So I think it was a bit of what we've seen from Ten Hag, where he doesn't really like to rotate, build confidence. But also, I don't think we had loads of options in this case. I think he did rotate the areas where we did. Garnacho started, Pellistri started. I don't think those guys are the first choice wingers if everyone's fit. Who I think Martial started, so we've seen that Højlund's the number one striker at the moment. So he rotated in some areas. Mount, I think, played, didn't he? For at least
Mount
a half.
Next to Casemiro.
Bruno didn't get on the pitch. Rashford didn't get on the pitch, and I think it was the best that he could do with what we have right now, and also the circumstances. Like I said, Onana needs clean sheets. He needs performances where he has hardly anything to do just to start building confidence, and then some other positions we don't have any options. So, yeah, man, it's a bit of a strange one because I get it, but it's kind of the root cause of some of the problems we're facing around injuries is not rotating, and then he's not choosing to rotate. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want, we can throw ahead to the kind of the 1-0 defeat, since we are talking about United.
Yeah, let's get to that. Let's get to the doom and gloom.
The one thing I would say about Onana is it's very difficult for goalkeepers, and I think when last time we were on, I was talking about that, about Ramsdale as well. And he has this, luckily. But the problem is, because goalkeeping stats are so cooked, no one really understands them. Once people start losing faith in that goalkeeper, it becomes really, really difficult. And I thought for Onana, for a little bit, there was starting to be that. Everyone's like, I'm not really sure, is this guy the real deal? So he's got to play. Like you say, he's got to play as many minutes as possible to try and get rid of that idea, just so that we realize, now this guy's actually the guy and he's good enough.
No, you're right, man. You're right. And I can't lie, after the Bayern blunder, I was looking at him. And I admired him coming out after the match, and me and Jonty talked about it. It's good for him to come out and take accountability. But yeah, that clanger was a big error, and I've got PTSD, man, from De Gea, from the back end of De Gea. When I see my goalie throw in clangers, I automatically start to get a little bit, squirmy.
Let me ask you, as a United fan, what did you think of that apology? Because for me, I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing pros coming out and apologize. And you know what? It only seems to be United players that do that. Other clubs don't. Why are they doing that? Why do they feel the need to do that?
Bro, the big issue, man, is we've got people like who's come out historically, at least in recent history, like Maguire, who've come out and taken no accountability. We've had players like Luke Shaw who've come out and just said we've been rubbish. And then, for example, now we've got Onana who comes out and says, which I guess he kind of took extra blame because he was like, oh, I caused the defeat. When actually, his error was the first one, but then we conceded 3 other goals where really he wasn't at blame for any of them. So it was a bit of a pandering type thing. We'll come to the Arsenal thing with the Havertz pen, right? It's kind of semi-pandering, but also like trying to do the right thing. And it just stinks because he played poorly. He's been pretty poor for all the matches, almost, that he's had in the United shirt. So it feels a bit extra. It feels like he didn't really need to do that, and it was a way to come out and I guess get in the good books of the fans. The pundits are going to lap it up because they love that. They, accountability FC, they love it when people come out and say that they've been bad. But yeah, I respect it to a certain degree, but at the same time, these days, sometimes I'd just prefer the players to shut up and play well. You know what I mean? I'd rather they play well than chat all that mess in the media. But yeah, let's get to the Crystal Palace, the second leg of Crystal Palace versus United in the last week. 1-0 home defeat. Man, that match was a hard watch, and I know theoretically none of us should be watching it because it wasn't available on British TV. But somehow I managed to watch it, and we were poor, man, really, really poor. We had loads of the ball, didn't really do anything with it. Palace looked pretty comfortable. I think there was about a 10-minute period in the first half, right at the beginning, and kind of in the second half, where there was some goal mouth action. Things looked like we might get a bit of luck and something bounces off someone's ass and goes in. But I have to be honest, at the same time, it didn't look like we'd score if we carried on playing for another couple of hours. It was really poor, and one moment of brilliance really from Anderson with the goal. He took it amazingly, to be honest. It's a bit of a striker's finish. Settled it. And I've got to say, Palace were well worth their win. We've got this little thing on, our prep for the episodes where we kind of highlight best and worst performers. It's a stretch for me to put in best performers because I liked some of the things I saw from, for example, I think Mount was pretty good off the ball.
Yeah.
I think he was decent. I can see, the plan with Mount if he plays to that level. I think Garnacho was our only attacking threat in the whole match when he came on. I thought Delo wasn't terrible, but I'm stretching, bro. Those are 6 out of 10s max. They're not more than that. And the worst performers, the list as long as your arm. Rashford was poor. Bruno, I can't remember him doing anything. Casemiro, I'm only ever seeing him when he's getting run behind, or run beyond. He's scoring, which is weird for a DM, a supposed DM. We just look toothless, man. And not surprised, and I'm worried because we've got obviously, a couple. The games are coming thick and fast, and we're looking not any better. So, what was your take on it?
Much the same. It was a terrible game.
Yeah.
I had a couple of thoughts. First of which is, fam, look, man, you shouldn't be losing games to Palace. Like,
no way.
Honestly, because as I heard someone else mention this on the podcast as well, it's just like those points are not being used. Those 3 points are not being used. Like, it's one thing losing to Everton or to Luton or to Sheffield. Those guys are going to need it to fight for their lives. Palace are going to use that point to finish somewhere between 9th and 13th. Like, that's where those points are not going to get anyone into Europe. No. Those points are only going to keep Roy Hodgson around for another year, stop him from seeing his grandchildren. So, for me, losing to Palace is just, you can't be doing that. Really good finish. One of those goals I think sometimes where it's like, this is not really even anyone's fault. It's like, if the guy hits it when he's looking the other way, basically, his body's almost facing his own goal, and he's able to get that much purchase and power on it, you have to like hold up your hands and say, all right, cool, let's go up the other end and do something, which unfortunately United don't have.
We're not capable of doing,
Yeah, so best performer for me, I thought was Mount, really. I thought Mount looked really good. Mount looks like a player that's been coached really well. Like, you can see he's like showing up in the right spot. He's doing all of the and other bits. And I think if you think of him just as a goals and assist player, you're not going to, he's always going to fall short. But that's not what he does. Curiously, I think, unfortunately for him, is the person I think plays in the position he should probably be playing in is the captain.
Yeah.
I think if you play Mount there and Mount can kind of press and knit things together, he might not get the goals and assists, but he's going to get those pre-assists and open up and draw people out of position.
We'll be a better team, I think. I
think so. But the thing is, the problem is no one else has any sort of attacking output outside of Fernandes and then Rashford when he can be up. So, it was tough to see, man. It was a
hard watch, bro. It was a very hard watch. Even if I took my allegiance out of the way, just wanting to watch a game of football, it was a smelly match to watch. Because you could tell what Palace were doing, and you can't blame them for doing it. And they're pretty good at it. They proved that they're pretty decent at it. But we were just so toothless. And like you said, there's no reason for us to be toothless because we need those points. We started badly, and we're aiming to be in Champions League. Like you said, Palace are going nowhere.
It's going nowhere, man.
They're going nowhere, bro.
They're going to be like, they're not even going to build on this performance.
No, it means nothing to them. It means nothing. And we fell for it.
Going nowhere.
We fell for it. Poor.
But I mean, this is the how manyth time that United have struggled at home. They got beaten at home by Brighton earlier in the season. Barely beat Wolves.
Yeah, we robbed them.
Really should have lost that one. So what's up with the home form? Because it seems like before Ten Hag was really good at home. It's the one thing that it was kind of
they held our season together last year. Yeah,
yeah. So what's changed,
bro? I don't know. I don't even think that we can separate it now between home and away. And when we came into the season, everyone was talking about our away form. What was that stat? No wins against top 10. Some like made up stat that I'd never heard in my life. Like no one ever used that stat ever, right? It was always like top 4 or top 6 was a stretch. Top 10 never existed as a stat away from home. It was just like you're away from home, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was all this like, we need to be better at away. But like you said, at home last season, Brighton were the only team to beat us in the league. We lost once in the Europa League, but that was, if you watch that match, Real Sociedad, it was a robbery, and we won everything else pretty much, bar I think a couple of draws. But we were really strong at home. We beat all the big 6 teams at home. We were doing really well, and most of the time we didn't have to S-house our way to it. This season, I can't tell you, bro, what the difference is between home and away. We just look poor everywhere. There's no difference. That home crowd, that support, I think it helped us in the Wolves game in that I think it made it hard for the refs to make the right decision on the Onana Superman punch. But I don't think it helped our performance as a team. I don't think it helped in Brighton game. We got played off the field. This game, I don't think you could say we got played off the field, but we were so naive. We just looked toothless, man. I keep coming back to that word. It just didn't look like you said, unless there's Bruno and Rashford on fire and playing clinically, we don't score. We just will not score a goal. And we actually had loads of the ball. And there was a really interesting thing where people compared our Burnley game to the Palace game. And Burnley away, we had like 32% possession or something ridiculous. We had like a really low percentage of the ball, and against Palace we had 77 or something. We had a really high percentage. Tell me, does that build any faith in your manager or philosophy if you see that kind of chasm of the like these two pretty important stats, right? Having the ball from game to game. You don't see that with Pep. You don't see that with Klopp. You don't see that with even Arteta and that rung of up and coming managers. Like, why are we seeing it with Ten Hag? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's confusing, man. It looks, and you know what the thing is, and this is kind of goes above and beyond just the Palace fixture. I think is, and I said this to you when it kind of came on as we were kind of discussing the kind of the preseason and stuff like that. What United just have to do is just have to like stop everything just being like a huge chaos. Like dumpster fire, like it's everything. It's everything, man. Ten Hag's trying to put this football team together. He's had to deal with the Antony situation. He's had to deal with Mason Greenwood. He's had to deal with Jadon Sancho. And then
Ronaldo. Don't forget Ronaldo. Yeah,
I saw that thing the other day. It's one of the weirdest headlines I've ever saw. It was like Manchester United have to apologize for inviting a convicted sex offender to Old Trafford.
I saw that as well.
And I was like, dude, this as well. There's all these problems that you have to solve. You have to find a reliable partnership at the back, and you have to find a good striker. And by the way, stop inviting registered sex offenders to the ground. There's so many horrific things, and I already know that some people are starting to say this guy's in trouble, but like, it's not going to make a difference.
Nah, bro, you're right. You're so right, man. And I have to quickly clarify: we're laughing about these things because they're so ridiculous, right? Obviously, the Antony stuff is serious. All that stuff is super serious. The sex offender stuff is mad serious. But at the moment, like, that could only happen to us. Like, if you hear that random title without the club named, you're going, that's a United thing. Because every single thing that could happen, that is the most atrocious, most like off the like cuff, crazy thing that you could imagine happening, happens to us. And I've heard so many people talk about this because there's loads of stuff around Ten Hag, which is what you said, right? Like, I'm glad you're saying this. people really need to think long and hard about this United situation. We've tried all the types of managers you could since Alex Ferguson left, right? I basically think if you look at the different types of managers that you could go for, we've tried them all. Not saying that they were the best of that, specific type, but we've tried them. There's very clear and obvious, not even signs at this point, it's very clear and obvious that our ownership smells to high heaven. And they're having a disgusting effect on the whole culture of the club. So when people say, "Oh, United fans moan about the Glazers when they lose, but when we get a new signing or we win, no one's talking about it," it's disingenuous, bro. We talk about it all the time, but of course, if there's something positive going on, we're not just gonna like doomsgate it and only talk about the negative the whole time. You're gonna focus on some of the positive too, right? We want to be happy as supporters and as people. So, but you can't blame Ten Hag for really much of this. You can some of it, the tactics on the field, the like seemingly aimless style that we've had that I just talked about with the possession and stuff. There's lots of stuff you can say, Ten Hag, you need to sort yourself out. This doesn't look good. That stuff is on you. The signings, some don't look good. Antony, if you take away what's gone on with him, has been poor. Malasia's been average. Ericsson's been decent, but when it came to the crunch, he couldn't handle it. The jury's out on Mount. Jury's out on Onana. The jury's out on Højlund, which I think is a bit unfair, but he's young, but the pressure's on him. Who else have we signed? Amrabat. The pressure will be on him once he starts playing games properly. Martinez has looked good, but when he came back from the injury, he was looking terrible. Now it makes sense because he was injured. We can use that excuse, but we need to have conversations about that when he comes back if he's not playing better, because Lissandro's looked really poor the beginning part of the season. And you've got to ask questions of some of the things Ten Hag's doing. But the cultural stuff, that he's trying to fix that, but he's up against a mad current. And this cultural problem that we've had, probably even since Fergie was still there, like he was able to bat it away because he had that aura and he was like, the god of football in the UK. But as soon as he left, there was nothing holding the fort. And that culture has seeped into everyone. Because if you talk to me about Sancho, we can get onto that if you want, because I haven't heard your opinion on it. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's as toxic as the media are going in on him. But do I think he's been, influenced by this terrible culture in the club? Yeah, I do think so. And I think many players have been influenced by that, right? Like we've become career killers. You've seen so many good players come to the club, stink it up. We sell them for a pittance of what we paid, and they carry on with their career, win trophies, do stuff. Di Maria's a good example. I hate him, but he was terrible at United and went and did well. So
no, I mean,
you've got to look beyond Ten Hag, right?
And I agree, the cultural stuff specifically. And like you're right, we're not making light of it. What I do find, I'm bemused, I should rather say, about how terrible it ends up being. How just scandal after scandal. Clearly, it's because someone isn't there just to be like, no, this is right and this is wrong. Yeah. We're going in that direction. And it would be great if that person is Ten Hag, but realistically at modern clubs, they don't tend to be the managers because the manager gets replaced every 3 years. So there's got to be someone above the manager who's like, no, these aren't the kind of characters that we want in our dressing room. These aren't the kind of characters that we want associated with our club. And for that reason, you've got to go. What I would say is about the owners, why I think, and I mean, I'm saying this as an Arsenal fan when things are kind of going good, but the whole thing, planting trees in the summer, the shades of the future. I don't know. You know how that goes. Is what's happened to United can happen to any club. We don't elect the owners. Yeah. The owners aren't there elected by the fans. You get bought whether you want to or not. And it's luck of the draw, it's lottery that you get bought by someone who puts money into the club, who are responsible custodians of your club. But there's every chance that you don't get that. And for the longest time, to be honest, as an Arsenal fan, I thought that wasn't the case. I thought that we've been bought by kind of, these American capitalist Mickey Mouse guys who just want to pull for the club. And as it stands, that might still be the case, but at the very least, they've invested in the club. They've chosen well. They've hired the right people, and as a result, Arsenal have been able to flourish recently. What I would say to you to kind of hold up hope is, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. It's literally it can change within 12 months, and the next thing you know, you're kind of flying high. So yeah, I do have sympathy to that extent. That sucks. However, am I going to say it's not funny to me? Of course
No,
not.
you got to run. You got to run banter. Like we got to be honest. When you guys were in the mud, I was the biggest one out here running banter on Arsenal fans, and we've got to hold it because we are we are the banter club. I mean, Chelsea are getting away scot free, right? We're not going to talk about them, but my God.
Chelsea and United, those are my dude. I never miss those games. I miss Arsenal games sometimes. I never miss a Chelsea.
Bro, we're in the trenches. You never know. We're mudded. We're so mudded. But at least they've got this excuse that they've been sold to a new ownership. They're going down a totally different model. They've botched it up. Like they've stunk it up, because how you can spend $1 billion and not have one proper striker and not have Nicholas Jackson, who he's not a striker. I don't care what Poch says about him being a world-class potential, whatever. He's not Drogba, man. You need to have a striker.
That's true. I don't know if you want to keep I don't know if you want to keep this, but it's really funny to me that the Chelsea situation, just because it's proven something that we all kind of instinctively knew.
Yeah.
But someone actually played it out in real life. You can't give players 8-year contracts, because that means that if you bring in a new manager on a 2-year deal, they can be like, Nicholas Jackson, you should press. And he can turn around to Poch and be, why don't you press these nuts? Huh? like it becomes, that's why we don't do it. And it reminds me like a lot with Donald Trump when they stormed the Capitol. It's like, this is why we have peaceful transfers of power, because if you don't do that,
that's what happens.
Goes well. Anyway,
it's true.
Let's
go
back to
it's true, man. And that no, we'll keep everything in on Chelsea, because we're not supposed to talk about Chelsea really. But you know what? I need to have some sort of fun and enjoyment on this podcast, right? So we're going to keep that in. They are they're the only solace I have right now, to be honest. With the storm that we have, they're the only thing keeping me happy. So we'll chat about Chelsea more in another time. But yeah, United, we're a mess. And to get beyond the owner stuff, because I agree with everything you said, man. Like it's all true. You guys proved a few things, though. You proved that things can change from generation to generation, because all the stuff and the problems Arsenal fans had with the Cronkies, or with Stan Kroenke, right? When he was partial owner and then he got the full ownership, he was still there at the beginning, and he employed the wrong people, and things weren't looking good under Emery. And then what happened was, he was getting flack, and he said to his son, "Hey, Josh Kroenke, you come in, you take care of this. I'm going to take care of my American teams. It's getting a little bit hot over here in Arsenal, North London. They're on me a bit. You deal with that." And what happened was, he came in with a different approach. He hired the right people, and he showed faith in them. Because Arteta was stinking it up too at the beginning. Let's be real, right? 8 and 5th.
Yeah, of course.
That's smelly, right? You guys are a big enough club. You can't be accepting that. But he held faith. He saw things were going right, and it's paying dividends now, right? That happened with us. The original Glazer who bought us passed away. Even though I hate him, R.I.P. Still, the Sons took over. They just carried on the same rubbish. They did the same thing. They didn't have a different approach. They just wanted money. They just wanted to do the same thing. And we didn't get that opportunity at a fresh start with these owners, right? And it's carried on and on and on. So at this point, I understand United fans that say the only hope we have is if we get bought out. And I agree with that. I really think the only hope we have is if we get taken over and we get new owners. I really don't think the manager merry-go-round will make a difference.
No,
I don't
that's
think
not going to make a difference.
I don't think we're not going to hire the right executives, which Josh Kroenke did, and a lot of big clubs have done, which are the people you talked about, who are going to set the culture, who are going to hire the manager, hire the coaches, set the direction for the club, lead the strategy around transfers, everything, and just hold it down and be an image of themselves. We're not going to hire those people, because the people that really could do a good job are people like Ralph Ragnick, that we ran out of town when he was stinking it up as a manager. He was supposed to be our director of football. That was the agreement. He would stay on.
They should never give that man the clipboard. What? They should never have given that man the clipboard. He should have been up there. And you know what? He's wild salty. That's what I like about Randy, because every now and again my man gives like some sort of YouTube lecture. It's like, yeah, I said they should have signed Erling Haaland for 10p. I was like, yo.
How could you argue with that? How could you argue with that?
That's the Arsene Wenger special. It's like, yeah, I heard about Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. I heard about him when he was 5 years old. I was like, come on, Arsene. Like,
bro, I saw that clip of Arsene Wenger talking about that too. And I mean, it's beautiful. And I believe them because Arsene Wenger was a G back in his day. Ralph Rangnick, as a club builder, is world-class level. You see what he's done at the other clubs. As a coach, no, he's done for. He's rubbish, right? But as a club builder, you can't hear the name of all the players that he listed he could have got for 10p, 5p, whatever, exchange some old mobile phones, whatever. He could have got everyone that's balling out right now. So that hurts. But I rate him because he should stick the middle fingers up to United because we've done him over and he should be the director of football. And if he was, we might be doing a bit better. But the club won't do that because he'll be a pain in their backside and he won't allow them to get away with this cultural rubbish that they allow at the club. So until the new owners come in, I don't think it will come. But I'm not holding my breath, bro. We've done this takeover talk for so long. It's not happening. I've given up hope, just like I gave up hope on Maguire leaving. We're screwed.
Nah, dude.
We're going to have to live with this.
My man's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
My man's going to be there forever.
You outlive me, mate. I'll be dead and Maguire will still be there. But let's get onto the wingers chat because I know you had some questions about our wingers.
Yeah, so basically, I watch a little bit of United, but I don't watch it as religiously as you would. My question was so you've got Rashford, you got Højlund. Was your man on the right?
Pellistri, young Uruguayan, yeah.
I was wondering actually, like, if you're actually missing Antony, is he actually like the missing part? Because like, he's dude. Look, don't get me wrong, I hate this guy. He's got his energy is so wild and disgusting. But it does seem when he's on that right-hand side, there's something resembling a structure, if only so that, the best can be gotten out of the likes of Rashford and Fernandes and Højlund. Like, are you actually missing him, or is that not going to make a difference?
Look, man, whatever I say, people are going to think I'm waffling out my ass, really, to be honest on this. But the truth is, yes, because he brings balance to the team and he has work rate and he does a lot of the basic stuff that you need of a modern day winger. The problem is he offers nothing going forward, and he's super wasteful, and he seems to just make the wrong decision 9 times out of 10. And to be honest, in the current form that we're in, I don't know if we're really missing him anything beyond just the balance. Because to be honest, what I just described is what Rashford offers right now. Except probably he doesn't really even offer much. He doesn't really offer much work rate, so he's essentially doing even less than what Antony would do. But he's been making the wrong decisions, so it's just a balance thing. He might help. It might make things a little bit more dynamic when it comes to the attack. Because I think if people look at Pellistri, they don't mark him so tight. They're not on him like he's a big threat. They know let him have the ball. He'll dribble a little bit. He'll make the wrong decision. He's young. He's naive. He's not Garnacho, right? He's not got a threat like Garnacho's got. So we'll just leave him. So everything's going to go to Rashford. We'll double mark him. We know he's, going to do the hero ball thing and go running down, down dead ends and make the wrong decision. So it's easy to plan for that. So I think you're right. Maybe slightly, but it's hard for me to say we're missing him, because that implies he offered us a lot, and he didn't really.
And that's why I want to get on to the next thing as well. This about Rashford specifically is it's one of the kind of things about football, and I know this to be true as a kind of fact, is when your team is doing badly, when your team is performing poorly, your best players disproportionately get blamed compared to your worst players.
Yeah.
So for me, just from the outside and the couple of games I've seen this year of United, Rashford's not doing well. Rashford isn't the problem. if you take Rashford out, right now you have a slight chance of some goals coming from Rashford. If you take Rashford out, you've got no chance of goals, in my opinion. So guys like Rashford, guys like Mount, like the really high level players, Casemiro to a lesser extent, although I think the opinion on Casemiro is starting to drift a bit. But especially those two guys, they are kind of the best players, I think. They've got the players with the best potential. And so they're getting most of the blame. And the same thing happened with Fernandes. Like I saw it a lot last year. Like there was times when he was the stand-up player for United for a long period of time, but the team wasn't doing well. So people were like, man, get this guy out of here. He sucks. So I know there's questions about whether Rashford should be dropped or not, but like for me, he's got to start. He's got to stay in, and you've got to get the pieces around him to get the most out of him, rather than actually drop him. Because what's that going to solve, man? Who's the player who's coming in who's going to improve on that left-hand side?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is a squad should be formed so when someone drops form or loses form, you can take them out. They've got competition. They've got someone else who you can bring in who's of a similar level of quality or has the potential to be a similar level of quality. And then you keep everyone on their toes. Pretty much every team that we know that's won loads of stuff has had that. They've had that championship winning squad. And we don't have that. So, like you said, one or two players on our team are completely indispensable because they've actually performed slightly more consistently than some of the others on our team. And so, therefore, I agree with you. I think Rashford's form has been poor, really, really poor this season. But it was even starting to tail off a little bit at back end of last season. Once he'd gone through that purple patch, and you had the whole Rashford Ballon d'Or rubbish going on after the World Cup. So, in an ideal world, you'd want to pull him and put someone in there who'd be able to hold down the fort, and you wouldn't see a massive, massive drop off. You'd still be able to score goals, and the team would be competitive. But we don't have that. We've got Garnacho, who has only pretty much looked good off the bench. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited about him. I think he's going to be a really good player. But it would be too much too soon to ask him to do that. And whenever he's come and started games, he hasn't been great. I think he's more of an impact player at this time. Sancho, whatever. Don't know where he is. He's playing, he's playing EA FC 24 until 4 a.m. in the evening. He's not playing football, real football. He's on the virtual thing. So he's not there. Antony's doing what he's doing. He's only just been brought back to, the squad. And anyway, he's more of a right-sided player. Pellistri, where are the other options, bro? So, we don't have the options to do it. And to be honest, Ten Hag's got to work out how to get the best out of Rashford, or at least more out of Rashford. That's more of a pressing concern than who do you replace Rashford with. How do we get better out of Rashford? He was playing out of his skin last season. He's done it before in previous seasons. He's pretty much only had one bad season in his career. He's been one of our most consistent players since he burst onto our team. How do you get back to that? Work that out, Ten Hag. This is again where I put the blame on him. Work it out. Why does he look like a lost puppy? Why is he not tracking back? Why is he not doing things that when he was in his confident form he was doing? Why has that happened? Why?
I think you've already kind of given the answer a little bit before, is that because United are so unbalanced in attack, you can afford to double up on Rashford and basically deny him space on that side, because you can give Antony the ball. He's not going to, he's not going to score in a million years. And they've got an inexperienced player on the other side. So you can make it quite asymmetrical.
It's easy to deal with, bro.
And do what they do with Saka a lot of the time. The difference for Arsenal is there's threats coming from everywhere for the most part. And so, things could become a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, bro. Like the Arsenal comparison, and we'll move on to Arsenal because I'm almost losing the will to live talking about United. I've got to be honest. But the comparison's great because, Saka is your star boy, right? But if they double up on him, you can switch it over to Martinelli and he's going to do just as much, if not more damage when he's fit.
Yeah.
And if he's not there, Trossard was doing that too. And if he's not there, Gabby Jesus can even play left wing. He can do that. You've got so many more options before you get to, or Emil Smith-Rowe even, if he gets back in form. He was balling out before that. there's so many more options you have before you start going to the youth guys, and we don't. We're 1 or 2 players away from you know getting the youth players in, and you don't have that. You've got depth now, and your attack really is pretty stacked, man. I don't think Arsenal's attack gets enough credit. A lot of people talk about Liverpool's attack being super stacked, and I agree it is. But Arsenal are stacked in attack. Maybe you're missing the obvious, gunman up front, and people say,
Yeah.
Jesus and Ketia can be improved on. But if you talk about your wide players, they're lethal, and they score most of your goals. So, you can play the way you do without worrying about it. So we don't have that. We're just not prepared for that. We don't have the squad for it. And now, at the moment, our best players, like you mentioned, Rashford, Bruno, they're just too inconsistent. And at the moment, they're just not doing it, man. So, yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried for the games we've got coming up. And, I'm looking at that clock, just waiting for that international break. And I never thought I'd say that.
Oh, no.
But there's literally what I'm waiting for, bro. That's how desperate we got. I'm at the bottom of the barrel, man. But let's go into Arsenal. Let's bring the positive vibes to the pod. Off the back of the 1-0 win, you absolutely slapped Bournemouth silly. 4-0 away.
Wow.
At the Vitality. Great performance, to be honest, from my perspective. I didn't see it obviously live. It was another one of the games that wasn't televised in the UK. But from what I saw, really good performance. What did you make of it, man?
The first, I would say, stress-free performance of the season. Every other result, I would say, pretty much has had some sort of stress. Whether that's Fulham, whether that's Palace away, whether that's United, whether that's the Spurs result. Every other game has been difficult. Brentford has been difficult. Even in the League Cup game, it was a stressful game towards the end. This one slapped them up. I don't know if Bournemouth didn't watch the kind of midweek game against. I've forgotten the name of the team, the Dutch team.
PSV.
The PSV game. Fam, if you come out and you try and press us,
suicide.
Oh my god, dude, that's suicide, dude. These young zealots throwing their bodies on for the cause. I was like,
kamikaze settings, bro.
You can't be doing that. And it's exactly what Arsenal wanted. Bournemouth came out with a really flat. It was a really strange game because it kind of felt like a lunchtime kickoff, even though it was a 3 o'clock kickoff. Crowd was really quiet. There was not a lot of. There was a lot of kind of snapping into tackles and stuff, but like nothing. The crowd never really got behind their team. And before you knew it, it was 2-0, and then it was 3-0, and it was 4-0. Best players for me, Saka. I think Saka had a really good game. Got kicked to high heavens again. They gave my man the Tekken 2 combo, like like how Law used to do with the backflip, like you hit the double combo. Like, they gave my man one of those. But there's within the Arsenal fan base, people have been saying, Saka doing all right. 7 games, 6 goal involvements. He's ticking along. Assists and goals. He's ticking along. He's doing really well. Who else played with Saliba? Played really well. Fantastic. Whenever Arsenal pressed high and the ball came back and went to stop a counter attack, it was either Rice or Saliba just stepped in. Just did the whole that's all right. Everyone calm down. Just everyone do that. So it was a great game. Enjoyed it. Glad to see everyone got on as well. And it's interesting to see what Arsenal do going into the next game, because he played a pretty strong team, I thought, after my man had given us the rope-a-dope and said everyone was injured.
Yeah, I was seeing that. I was like, what's going on? Who are you going to play? He named about 7 men and said they're all doubts. I'm like, what's going on?
Fam, what you got to know about Arteta is my man's
he's learned the arts, bro. He's learned the arts. He's a sneaky dog.
It's like that song that Ice Spice said, "The boy's a liar."
Class A liar. And I mean, it worked. It worked. I was shocked when I saw that team. I was like, what?
Dude, no one is capping. Like there's a press conference, all cap.
Yeah. It's a great tactic, though. It's a great tactic.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? It's not against the law. It turns out you can just lie.
Yeah.
It turns out you can just lie.
Ball-faced lies to everyone.
Yeah.
But man, what about Havertz? Because you didn't mention him, right? And I know, a lot's being made about this penalty stuff. So we can talk about it after. But like what I've heard from other Arsenal fans, and it's that he played all right, and it seemed like there was was there some stuff going on about his chant, like the Arsenal fans were chanting his name, like really trying to give him some confidence.
Yeah.
But what did you make of it? Because from what I saw, he scored the pen. He kind of celebrated in a kind of muted, understated, almost it looked like he was embarrassed that he got given the pen.
I think so.
Like, what's your take on it? Do you think this is going to be the catalyst? Because from what I saw, it didn't look like that. It kind of looked like he got more in his shell off the back of the goal.
So first of all, my man's a donkey. He loves
wheel
donkeys.
That back. Let's get the classic going.
Your man loves donkeys. My man is a humble man. Too humble. Can't trust these humble. It's like actually, I don't know if it's just his gait or the way he is. Like he's really quite languid, and like even though he's got an amazing physique, he's got broad shoulders and quite tall, but like the way he carries himself is not. And I know the problem. Yeah, and the problem with this this is an old man football take. I'm saying
Graham Souness, get ready.
As an old man football take, dude, can you just show some hustle, like body language, like dude, make an effort, like just. I know he's trying because he wouldn't be in the team if he wasn't. Yeah. But can you look like you're trying? Personally, I didn't really see that his general play was that much better. Like he did well, he did the things I expected him to do, but that's not what we paid £60 million for. We paid £60 million for a guy who's crashing the box, contributing Xhaka level numbers. Because Xhaka, I mean, it's not like Xhaka scored like 30 goals last season. It was only about 6-7 goals, a couple of assists, but you could tell when Xhaka was on the field that he was making an impact. And the thing that I would also say why I'm positive, even though I make fun of the guy a lot, I'm actually quite positive about him. I really want him to do well. Is we kind of have to Pep Guardiola, just going back to where we started, he's kind of changed the way we think about transfers and how we think about players. He's the kind of guy sign the likes of John Stones or sign more specifically, I think, Jack Grealish and let him sit on the bench for a year and let him bed in, let him learn the system and take him out and to give him time to adapt and find their feet and grow. And I think there's that capacity with Havertz. There is. The problem is for Arsenal is we don't have the luxury of being able to sit him out for a couple of years while the guy kind of learns the rope. So we need him to contribute. We need everyone to contribute if we want to challenge for the title this season. So that's where I think it is. It's just time. It's just patience. I think he is going to come good. I think it's going to be because Arteta wouldn't play him. Arteta's so stubborn about stuff. Arteta wouldn't play him if he wasn't. So yeah, we just have to wait and hope things come right and everyone can stay fit in the meantime. And to Arteta's credit, and to Ten Hag's discredit, he's rotated his team really well.
Yeah,
he's done really well.
That too.
Loads and loads of minutes.
Spreading the minutes out is crucial, man. People, and this is one of the takes that really drives me up the wall, right? People aren't rotating at the beginning of the season because people are, their players are tired. It's because they've got to spread the workload, and before you know it, in the winter period of the Premier League, when you've got 3 or 4 competitions going and you're playing every 3 days, and people have got so many minutes in their legs, injuries are going to come. So it's not that your current 11 or your main players are knackered and they need a rest. It's literally rotation, guys. Like people have to get their head around this concept of rotating and not, resting. Resting is different than rotating. Resting implies someone is tired and you're giving them time off. Rotation is to try and prevent that happening. So you don't have times when you need someone to rest. So it's smart to do that now, man. I hate it when you hear these dinosaurs on TalkSport or on Sky or whatever talking about why are they resting players? They shouldn't be resting players. It's only been 3 weeks of the season or whatever. No, man, that's not the concept anymore. The game has changed. What Arteta's doing is the right thing. He's probably a little bit upset because he's lost some key players that he wanted to keep in the rotation, like Timbers, Partey's out. Players that he didn't want to necessarily kind of give all the game time to. He's kind of been forced to give a bit more time to, but you've got a big enough squad that you're able to shift it around, and he's making those smart decisions. So you've had some squeaky bum games, like you said,
Yeah.
but you've come through them. You've managed to rotate certain players at certain times, and you guys are looking good, man. I know the form. People have been saying you're not the Arsenal of last season. If I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't care.
No.
You need to
No,
win.
no.
You need to win,
Yeah,
bro.
don't worry about that. Fam, this is exactly what we wanted. For me, this is exactly what you wanted. Good wins with room to grow, things to fix.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things you got to consider when you play. When you don't know what at this stage of, I think for the first kind of round of the competition, so up until we get to kind of this round 16, 17, no one has any idea how good or how bad a result is.
Exactly.
Drawing at home to Spurs objectively is not a great result for Arsenal. Then they go and they beat Liverpool.
Oh, that was sweet.
You just never know. You never know what's a good result. You never know what's a bad result. And especially now, you want to be playing teams like Bournemouth and them, man. Like, we want to be playing relegation teams now, not at the end of the season when they need the points. Yeah. You want to play them now when they're like, no, it's fine. It's still the day of summer. So yeah, I think we're completely fine. Spurs are catching all the heat, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is beautiful," and they love it. It's like they're loving Ange over there. Like, they've never actually. They feel beautiful. I'm like, long may it continue. Keep those plaudits. Keep that stuff for yourself, because I've seen what can happen with Arsenal. I've seen it. Last year, City they were like slipstreaming like Tour de France with us.
Yeah, they were.
Just avoiding all the headlines, like when are they going to crack, all that kind of stuff. And that's what we need to do. We just need to kind of stay in there. If a bad result happens, okay, it happens. But I personally, I feel like we're in a very good position. This is as good as, and like, I think we've played not to our potential, and we're second in the league.
Exactly. That's the way to look at it, man. I get the doom and gloom. I get it hurts to draw at home to Spurs, but like you said, you're right, man. At this point, you don't have enough context to be able to say that draw is a bad draw. We're using the context of the last few seasons where it seems like every drop point hurts because City are so lethal, but we don't know that yet. And if you want to drop points, drop a few here or there now. Like, you didn't need to get 50 points from your first 19 games last season.
No.
Right? If you'd got 50 in the last bit and got 40 or something, you would have won the league, right? So you can drop some points now, and they haven't been the worst. You've got room to grow, and like you said, you're just primed to make that late surge. Everything's going the right way. You want to stay under the radar. You don't want people to give you all the pressure, right? Because that is difficult for a young team.
Yeah, it is difficult.
And you need to the way you're going is nice. It's really, really nice. And if you keep it up, you'll be great. I did want to call out a few performances or a few things from the match, though. And the first one might be a bit shameless, but I got to ask it because Bruno gets these questions all the time. So I'm going to throw it on you, right? Odegaard, I was surprised you didn't mention him in the best performers. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he was good.
What I saw,
he was
right?
good. Yeah, he really was.
He was ticking things over and he was running the show. And I saw a lot of fans, and we'll give some grief to the Spurs fans. We're saying that Maddison is better than Odegaard after the North London derby, right? I thought you'd say that. But Odegaard, I want to get your opinion on this because Jonty was saying it last week. He didn't have a good game, Odegaard, against Spurs, right? But he should be allowed to have those off games. Not all the time, but let's be honest, all the big players, and there's myths out there that like KDB shows up every time. Haaland shows up every time. Aguero, Yaya, David Silva, all the, great players of Salah, all these guys show up. They don't, man. They have off games sometimes in big games. And the thing is, he had an off game and you didn't lose. So you got to look at it as a positive thing. And he must have offered some stuff as a captain because you guys still scored. You still showed good moments. But is it a concern for you that he didn't show up like 1 week earlier and he showed such a great performance? Or do you think it's just natural for a player?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. I remember in the North London derby, he got booked quite early. He was the one kind of pressing and harrying everyone. And he gets booked. It's one of those stupid ones where like he asked for a yellow card.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the ref booked him. And I think that kind of played on his mind a bit. He's like, he didn't press as aggressive. And sometimes you have to give fair play to the opponent. Spurs did really well, basically moving it around. What's your man from Brighton who plays for Spurs now? The DM.
Basuma.
Basuma did really well on.
He's class, mate.
On Odegaard, like he was on him like a flash. It was very difficult for Odegaard to find any sort of space at any point, and so sometimes you have to give fair play to the opponents. They played really well. We should have taken our chances. Jesus should have buried that, and if it's 2-0, I think it's a different game.
But that's not all on Odegaard, is it? It's not all on Odegaard.
It's not
Jesus
all
missed
on
that,
Odegaard.
or other things happened.
No, not at all. And like I said, because Basuma did a number on him and it did quite well, I would think that there's more space for the other guys to contribute. There's more space now for Jesus and for Saka if you press him up. So no, I'm not concerned about that. Maddison's really good. Maddison, it's funny to me because Maddison will, if he wins a trophy with Spurs, God forbid, he's like a bigger Spurs legend than Harry Kane. like he's like that guy's. He's got such Spurs energy. He's like a perfect fit for that club, and he's doing well. So fair play to him.
No, I agree with you, man. And look, I don't really have a beef with Spurs that much. Obviously, like United and Spurs are not really a rivalry, right? Although I think some of our ex-players have said some not nice things about Spurs as a team in the past, but who hasn't really? Pretty much universal.
Yeah, come on.
But I think they're getting, as much as it's good and there's promising signs, they're falling into dangerous territory. And when I say that, what I mean is now suddenly every player that they've got is world class, amazing. No, man, you got to chill, right? You really got to chill. Maddison has looked really good. He's looked like a player you've needed forever. He's linked really well with Son. And I think there are loads of players in your team who I could say are balling out right now. The sample size is too small for you to jump to these conclusions. It's given me a little bit of Liverpool energy where every single player is the best in their position and you're going into, hyperbole about every single player. You got to chill. They're looking good, but it's only been 6-7 games. I'm seeing like a lot of extra credit, like you mentioned earlier, go to Big Ange. I rate what he's doing. He's looking great. It surprised me. It's really surprised me. And I feel like we've been a bit snobby and snobbish to him because we haven't, we've basically said he's done nothing before this. And he's, been a manager for 10, 15 years or whatever. But they've got to chill. They were rubbish for like 4 years. They've got to chill, man.
And I don't really want to talk about this too much, but what I will say is, let's give it to the winter. Like the Premier League has a way of catching up with you.
Yeah.
So right now, Ange is having a good time. He's having a good time. Let's give these Premier League managers, let's give him a couple of rounds to figure him out, and let's see if he's got a plan B. Give De Zerbi and Thomas Frank and Arteta,
set the dogs on him.
And Clark and all these guys. Let's give them a couple of. Let's see if these guys don't find a way. And then he's got to have either the nous as a manager or the depth of player, which I don't think he has, to come around with it. Because the Premier League comes. But let me just give him 1 weekend. Let get my man Unai on it. Let me get Unai Emery on my man. Unai's gonna come up with a plan for you like you've never seen.
Yeah.
And
true,
so,
bro.
like, my man's got the. He keeps that thing on him. Like,
Unai's a shooter. He's a shooter.
Oh man, he's a shooter, dude. He keeps a thing on it.
I agree with you, but it's just with the context of Odegaard. I know Odegaard hasn't got. He's had one amazing season for Arsenal, and I think there's elements of that going on there too. But Odegaard has got more in the game at that top level than Maddison does. I know Maddison's been in the league for longer, but he's been out here with Leicester, staving relegation and doing that kind of stuff. There's levels to this, right? He has to prove it at Spurs for a season or two before we even say that he's better than Odegaard and Bruno and all these guys, right? He's got to do it. I'm sorry. And the manager has the same things applied. So I agree with you. The Odegaard shout, he stunk it up in the derby. He was very good this week, and players are allowed to have that every now and again. Agreed. He hasn't had many. You've got to stick with him, and he's your captain. And you know what? If I could pick, a couple of players from Arsenal, he'd definitely be in the list, right? Like, I know you've got a lot of good players, but there's a lot of intangibles around him that I think get kind of get ignored. So yeah, keep the faith with Odegaard. I'm glad you're not onto him. The other player I really want to discuss, right, and it's the last thing from this game because you guys battered him, so I'm probably just trying to stretch out a bit. Is this Smith Rowe thing? Right, this is the thing that baffles me. Right, like I get you want to back Havertz, he's a new signing, you want to play other players, but why is Smith Rowe not getting a chance? He's not injured anymore. He's been back.
I don't
for
think
a
that's
while.
fair. I don't think it's fair to say he's not getting a chance. He is playing a lot of minutes. He's a lot of games.
Garbage time, bro. This is the thing.
No, my man played like 70 minutes in the League Cup. Like
Brentford, playing. Yeah, Brentford.
Yeah, he played in the League Cup. Came off the bench against Bournemouth. It's my Lens is the next game. I suspect he'll start. Just because it's not a particularly strong opponent, and we need to give him minutes. I think he will. I think he'll definitely feature quite heavily. The only thing that worried me about that is because things then started coming out on social media afterwards of him having to be consoled because he was distraught after the game. Now we don't know everything. We don't know if maybe he's had another injury and he's worried that he's going to lose his place again, or if he was legitimately just upset that he missed a chance and he feels desperate to get back into the team. Either of those things are not good, in my opinion. I think he's being brought back. The club, the players, the fans have such a big connection with him, and he does offer a lot. But I think also just from the eye test, his body's changed a lot. Like when he went away, he was quite a wispy kind of like slight kind of guy. But he's come back and he's much bigger. His frame is much bigger. He's filled out a bit. I wonder if that's taking some time to get used to. That's why he can't play a full 90 minutes kind of thing. So we don't know everything. That's the answer. We don't know everything. I do think there is something because towards the end of last season, he was playing well, or he was fit, he was ready to play, and Arteta didn't trust him.
Yeah, it looked like he was being overlooked.
Yeah. I think he offers something a little bit different compared to Havertz because Smith Rowe's quite direct. He's more a carrier than a passer. Havertz is a bit of a first touch round the corner, give and go kind of guy, but Smith Rowe is a much more of a direct runner. It's like he wants to carry the ball into the final third and arrive late into the box and get those goals. So there's definitely room for him in the squad, and there's more than enough minutes for him to play. And he's not going to be judged on how he does against Bournemouth. Like I feel like he's going to be judged in midweek, playing those cup competitions. Either way.
No, I hope so, man, because I really rate him, and I remember that breakout season he had. He was banging in goals. It was the Smith Rowe and Saka show. You've got the chant with both of them. It's not it's not by chance. Your fans obviously clearly have a really strong affinity with him. So I really hope he comes back, man. And I think you make a really good point. I haven't heard anyone really talk about that physical element. People develop into their early 20s or mid-20s even for some people. And you make a good point. I did look at him the other day when I saw him come on and I thought, he looks a bit different. I can't put my finger on what's going on, but you make a good point. He looks like more of a man than he was when he originally kind of broke onto the scene. He looks a bit bigger. He looks like he maybe has put on a little bit of muscle as well. And normally when people go through a big bad injury, they get in the gym a bit and they put on some muscle. So maybe he's getting used to carrying that extra weight or that muscle mass. And it takes time, man. And I'm glad you said he played at Brentford because I didn't actually watch too much of that game, so I didn't actually see that he was playing. So I'm glad he's getting some minutes, man. You got to get him back on side.
The only thing I would say about the kind of Champions League rotation that makes things a little bit different, that's going to be new for Arteta, is I think the Europa League, compared to the Champions League, one of the benefits I think of being in the Europa League is the Europa League is a really, really good stress test for your young players and for your new signings. It's not as physical. Tactically, it's still pretty good because these are teams that are playing in Europe. But there's not necessarily the high need to win, the intensity that you see in the Champions League. At least not until you get into like the Europa League, like last 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals. And it gets quite tricky. You're playing Villarreal and teams like that. It becomes difficult. And so And so exactly. So I think if we were still in the Europa League, it would be you could have Smith Rowe play a 90. But now it's getting a little bit tougher. It's getting a little bit tougher. And so at the same time, I'd like to see Vieira play more. I'd like to see Smith Rowe play a little bit more. I'd like to see Reece Nelson get a couple of starts because I think he's been doing really, really well. Nketiah must just play. Nketiah must never ever stop playing. Like just play him until he scores. Like get him on that Michael Jordan if you lost contract. Just every single day, get this guy on the field. He has to start scoring because he's not allowed to rest. Everyone else will be rotated. Not Nketiah. He's got to play 59 games a season.
But I hear you, bro. I hear you. I do. I think what you're saying though, in normal circumstances, makes sense. But I think you've got a favourable draw, bro. There's been jokes going around that you've got a Europa League draw in the Champions League. I actually think that will work in your favour because I do think you'll be able to do the same thing in this group stage. I don't think you're under threat. I think the win against PSV's got you off in a real good start. If you win this Lens game coming up, then you probably could just like rotate your way through game week 5, 6, maybe even 4.
Yeah,
like it should be okay for you. But I agree, man. It's a great breeding ground, but I think you'll be able to do something similar, man. And it's funny. I agree with Nketiah, man. You just got to keep playing him until he's banging in hat tricks, and then maybe you can consider taking him out. But you got to keep playing him. I feel like he's constantly on trial, right? Like Gabby Jesus is there, but Nketiah is never not going to be on trial. That contract might say full time, but that in that fine print, if you read it, it's going to say we can drop you at any time, bro. It's a trial, so you got to work for it. So I hear you, man. It's hard that way. Let's get into the previews then, bro, because I think we've analysed the living daylights out of those two performances, both good and bad. Let's look at the Champions League then. So we're both playing on Tuesday. One of us at home, one of us away. You're going away to Lens. I've heard some stuff because I've never really watched too much of Lens. I got to be honest, bro. I know the traditional big teams in France, but I heard they had a great season last year. Lost out to the title to a point. I think they were a point behind PSG, so they ran them really close. But they've lost basically all of their best players over the summer, and they're in a rebuild. So how do you feel about that? Away in France, I heard they've got a bit of a hostile environment. What do you think? What do you think of the game? Do you think you're going to get the W? How do you think it's going to go?
I think it's 4-0. And if Jorginho plays, it's 4-1. That's where I'm at.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
man.
Like some things don't have to be analysed, dude. Some things don't have to be analysed. Come on, it's Lens. Let's put them in a spliff. Let's put them in a spliff. Let's get home, guys. Let's get home. Let's be with our families.
Oh, mate, this is going to be a legendary start to the guest co-host, and if this goes wrong, but no, I agree.
I'll be here
with you,
next
man.
week. I'll be here next
You'll
week.
You'll be able to hold it next week. That's true.
I'm happy to hold it. I'll be here next week.
No, I think you should win, Mo. And it's funny with Jorginho, but even with Jorginho, I think you'll be all right, man. And like I said just early in the last segment, this is a group where you can like try stuff and you can play different players. You can rotate again. And you shouldn't be in any danger of dropping points to the teams. Maybe Sevilla are semi-decent, but I think they haven't started the season well either. So, yeah, man, I expect you guys to get a comfortable W. It should be, man.
Yeah,
mine.
And I saw there was trouble. Arsenal got held up at Luton Airport for 3 hours. That's the only thing.
The transport might be your problem. Yeah,
we got held up at Luton 3 hours. Oh my god,
bro, that's standard for Luton. To be honest, that's probably fast tracking you. To be honest, So we got United at home to Galatasaray. I don't feel good, bro, and I'm not doomsdale in this.
Yeah,
like I really don't feel good. Something about Zaha coming back to Old Trafford. And I don't really like him. I don't really rate him. But the narrative's there, and
that's a problem, man.
We're just in this. We're in this narrative world already. If there's a narrative,
but that's
that can come and kill us, it will. That's what we are.
That's why, dude. Narrative XG against United, NXPG, so NXG, NXG is off the charts,
bro,
for United right now. So you're starting that game. The XG is 0-0, but the NXG is 0-1.
Yeah,
so like you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I think this is the kind of game that United don't have problems with. United
Wow.
will have enough. I think you guys should have enough to win it. I think.
Oh.
Let me say this: the place will stink, like it'll stink out the place. But I think you'll have enough to win it.
Yeah, man. I actually, weirdly enough, as bad I feel about this game, like you mentioned earlier, Europe's different.
Yeah.
It's not just the competition's different. The way it's refereed's different. The
Yeah.
pace, the style, the physicality is totally different. And you're less likely to see someone come and do what Palace did. And you're more likely to see someone actually come out and play a bit of football against you.
Yeah.
And so if that happens, I still think we've got some weapons to be able to catch and hurt people if they do actually try and play against us. So, I think it's going to be smelly, and I don't think it'll be convincing. But I wouldn't be shocked if we won 3-1. I don't think we're getting a clean sheet. No way. Onana's shipping one at least. Okay. But I think 3-1, we could do it, man. And it could be Palace-esque in the Carabao Cup. I don't expect Galatasaray to be that bad, but in terms of our performance, I reckon we could raise it to that level again. And God, we need to get a win because we lost in the first game week to Bayern away. If we don't win this game, we could be Thursday nights. We were talking about Europa League. We could be there in a flash. And Liverpool there, so we ain't winning that. So, not looking good, mate. Not looking good. Let's get to the United-Brentford game. We'll go through this quickly. Yeah, Brentford are not looking good. Everything I've seen of them, they've looked really... Like, at the beginning against Spurs, they looked all right. As the weeks have passed, they're missing Ivan Toney. They don't have a striker. And there's only so long that Viscera and Mbeumo can do the little jobs that they were doing. Yeah. They need a striker. And so I'm hoping, this could go the bloody same way as Palace, though. They could sit back and Ben Mee slaps one in from a corner and we do the same thing and lose 1-0. So I'm not guaranteeing a win, but I just got a feeling we'll get 2 wins on the bounce and we'll beat Brentford 2-1. Again, I think it's going to be smelly. Again, I think we're going to make it really hard for ourselves. But we don't really have an option, man. Like, as bad as I feel, we've got to win these games. We have to. So...
Fam, when it comes to United, I've chosen my path, and the path is United will always provide you with what would be the funniest result. The funniest result is a beautiful 3-0 against Galatasaray, only to lose 1-0 to Brentford. I think you're in trouble. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Brentford don't actually get you together. Because whatever they have in terms of not having a focal point, they're pretty well organized, pressing wise, and these United forwards United defenders and goalkeeper even don't they don't like being pressed that much. Yeah, Onana's good, but it's not about Onana; it's about the guy who's receiving it.
Yeah, it's a system. Onana's fine being pressed, but he needs to have out balls, and if he's got Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans, well, that's harsh on Johnny Evans. I'm going to put respect on Johnny, right? But if it's Maguire, if it's Lindelof, even when we had Wan-Bissaka, they don't want the ball, and they can't keep the ball. So Onana's literally only got a long ball, or Lissandro if he's available, or Luke Shaw, and I agree with you, man. I think there's a big chance Brentford beat us, or at least get a draw, or we don't get the result we're looking for. Let's go to the big game then of the weekend. It's first versus second. Arsenal at home to City. I saw some really funny previews around this game. A lot of people describing Arsenal's games against City as the story of 3 slappings last season. I think that's a bit harsh. I think it's a bit harsh because I don't think every game was a slapping. I think the game at Emirates you actually kind of threw away.
That was a great game.
But you were in it. And I think the FA Cup game, again, you were in it. The reverse fixture at the Etihad, that was a slapping. But the other 2, you were in there. So how do you feel about this? Do you think you're finally going to get that hoodoo off your back?
I think this will be so tight. I think this will be... I think this will be a throwback to kind of top 6 games of old, like from back when like Rafa and Jose were in the Prem. And like every game was just like no one would take any risks because no one wants to lose to anyone. I have a slight suspicion that this is what you'll be looking at. So it's a 1-1 or a 0-0 kind of thing.
Really? Okay.
I think the Community Shield game was interesting. The Community Shield game, and I mean this is pre-season, doesn't mean anything, but you could kind of tell that like Pep and Arteta, like they don't want to show each other anything too soon. And but now it's the time to come and do that. I think them not having Rodri is huge.
Massive.
Huge. I think given the chance, and then they play that my man, the BBW, Calvin Phillips.
Calvin Hamburgers. Yeah,
they're playing all tons of fun. And I think when you got Rice in the middle there, you got Odegaard. That's kind of going to be the midfield balance. I hope Partey's fit. I don't think he is, but if he would be fit, him at the base of that midfield with Vieira, with Rice and Odegaard on either side of him, fantastic. So I think we'll show improvement, but to be honest, I think there's still that big psychological block. I don't see us just going out and slapping them,
really,
just like that. Not yet. But I do think we'll show a lot of improvement, and I think we'll leave with at least a point.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, man. I'm actually more positive though. I think you're going to win this game, and I don't think it will be a slapping. I don't think you'll slap them or they'll slap you. I think it'll be really tight. I think Rodri not playing is a leveler. I think it brings the teams a lot closer, and in fact, I think it kind of gives you guys the slight edge. No John Stones apparently as well. There's a couple of doubts over Bernardo and a couple of other key players. So really, this is all on, is Saka going to be fit? Is Rice going to be fit? Are the players that he basically listed out as doubts all going to make it to that game unscathed?
Yeah.
And if they are, I think you guys are going to win 2-1. And I wouldn't be surprised if you won 3-1. But I think it'll be close. Wow. And I think you guys are going to put down a bit of a marker. And I think it's really the only saviour of the season of this title race, right? Because I'm not getting into Liverpool gas. Liverpool not doing it.
Oh, you aren't?
No.
You're not having it? You're not having it? All right.
You know,
I see you.
Yeah, I don't know why you forgot, bro. I've got a Liverpool aversion. Nothing.
I see you.
No Liverpool next to me. Yeah, Liverpool. Sorry, Liverpool.
No. Whoa! Stop!
Sticking a knife in. I'll keep doing it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, hold that. But I think you guys are going to make it interesting, and I think the results are really of this next weekend. You're going to start seeing how the league's going to look going into this middle section, and I think you guys are going to beat City, and I'm going to be happy about it, man. I actually really want Arsenal to, prove that they're actually made of stronger stuff, because I'm seeing it, man. And it's hard for me to defend it because you haven't got the big trophies or whatever, and you've had a couple crumbles in the last couple of seasons. But if you look beyond that and you look at like the away record, things that really show whether a team is built of strong stuff, I think you've got it, man. I think, your manager's lying all over the shop, like you said. That's a sign of a good manager. He's reaching that next level. It's perfect, man. I think you guys are going to win it. And, fingers crossed, man. I think it'll be a good game. Yep. I agree with you. I think it'll be very tactical. And you will probably know a bit more about how the teams are going to play. But, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's a Sunday kickoff. Man, I don't know if you're watching football this last weekend, beyond our games, but having one game on Sunday, what are they doing? It literally killed the Sunday.
Closed on Sunday.
Point? Yeah.
It was closed on Sunday.
Church settings. Yeah. It was like, well, what's the point of this, man? This is when we're all resting, and you put on bloody Forest versus Brentford. Shocking.
My man was trying to feel something. My man's watching Strictly Come Dancing just to feel some competition. Gotta feel something.
Honestly, it was just weird. It didn't make sense. But yeah, man. Let's see. Hopefully, you guys pick up the dub. Hopefully we pick up the dub. God, we need it. We'll go into the next international break with a bit of positivity. But I think we'll wrap the pod here, man. It's been a really good one. Apart from the Man U section. But everything else has been great, man. And thanks for coming on, Lix. It's been great having you on. And we'll see you again next week, and we'll check out, whether any of the gas that you've given comes true. Hopefully it does. for your sake. But yeah, for those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, share if you can, comment, leave a comment in the comment section. We interact with everyone. If you're checking out our TikTok, we're active out here. You know, if you're replying to us, even if it's pure waffle, we'll get back to you. Don't worry. So yeah, make sure you comment on that on our videos. If you're listening, on Spotify or Apple or any of the podcasting platforms, make sure you follow the pod. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify. It will obviously really help our podcast get to more listeners. And that would be great. Yeah. So thanks. Cheers, Links. We'll see you next week, man.
Yeah, man.
Have a good week.
100%.
See you on the weekend.
Bye.
See ya.